Before we start, take 1 second to support this channel. Hit subscribe and like. It truly helps us keep uncovering the stories others won't tell. Your support makes a real difference. Now, let's begin.
A heartbreaking story, the deaths of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. We all know this one. Their son, Nick, is due to be arraigned today.
Heartbreaks for the kids.
Nick Reiner could likely plead not guilty by reason of himself.
I want to thank my fellow nominees.
Thank you, Ken. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah, I know. Well,
For weeks, that stretch near Mulholland Drive felt frozen in time, like the entire hillside was holding its breath after everything unfolded. Hollywood kept moving, headlines kept spinning, opinions filled every corner of the internet. Everyone had something to say. Everyone, except the one voice people were truly waiting for. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle stayed silent. No statements, no interviews, no quiet leaks to friendly reporters. And then there was Jack Nicholson. If you know anything about Jack, you know this much. He doesn't speak on anyone else's schedule. He never has. So when he stayed quiet, people noticed. And when that silence stretched on, it started to feel heavy. Because with Jack, silence isn't absence. It's meaning.
Okay. Well, I don't usually get this baked when it's on television. But I really, this is what's so great about this, because my speech was to say, look, it is on television. Robin?
Casting Jack Nicholson in that role and watching him do his thing. We've had Kevin Bacon, Noah Wiley on this show talk about that, the big scene, obviously.
Yes, you can't handle the truth.
So when he finally chose to speak, it didn't happen under studio lights or in front of cameras. No press tour, no dramatic setup. Just a recorder placed on a thick wooden table in his living room. Late afternoon light pouring through the windows, casting long shadows across walls filled with art, history, and decades of memories. That house isn't just a home, it's a vault. Jack sat back in his chair, sunglasses on. Not to hide, but because that's always been him. He looks slimmer now, older.
From their perspective of watching an actor, you're an actor and director. What was that like from your perspective?
Well, it was interesting because, we have a big courtroom and, Jack has this long monologue. And I said to him before, I said, look, I'll give you a choice. Either I can shoot, if you want to shoot ready now, I'll shoot you right now. If you want some time to work on it, rehearse it, I will shoot all the reaction shots first. And then we turn the camera around on you and, whatever. He said, why don't you, shoot the reaction shots and that will give me So, I got Tom Cruise cut away, Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, I got the, Kevin Pollak. I mean, the judge, the jury. I'm doing all the reaction shots. And every time he's off camera, he gives exactly the same performance that you see that's on camera. After 2 or 3, I go up to him and I said, Jack, maybe you want to save a little because, he's full out in every one and he's off camera. He says, Rob, you don't understand. I love to act. He says, I don't get that.
The familiar lines in his face cut deeper, shaped by time and something heavier he hadn't quite shaken. He lifted his glass slowly. Ice clicked against the sides. He let the silence sit. This wasn't a performance. It felt like a confession. When he finally spoke, his voice came out rough, but steady, like it had traveled a long road to get there. He didn't dress anything up. He said people love talking about Rob the director, Rob the legend, the man behind iconic films and unforgettable characters. And yeah, Jack admitted, that part is true, but it's only the surface. He leaned forward, set the glass down firmly, and made one thing clear. What the public never really saw was the real Rob, the quiet moments, the deep thinking, the laughter that wasn't meant for cameras, the kind that filled the room and made you feel alive. Then Jack said it plainly.
Real fast.
Direct knowledge tell us a month before the murders, doctors changed the meds Nick was taking for schizoaffective disorder.
People don't know what it was like to stand beside him when his private world was starting to come apart. This wasn't about a Hollywood icon, it was about a father. A father who loved his child so deeply that the lines between care and concern slowly blurred. People keep asking whether Rob saw warning signs and chose love anyway, or whether he missed them until it was too late. Jack doesn't think that question matters as much as people think. What matters is the bond, the loyalty, the weight that comes from standing next to someone long enough to see both their brilliance and their struggles. Jack didn't rush to explain any of this. He waited. And when he finally looked back, his memories didn't start with parties or industry gatherings. They went back to pressure, to intensity, to one of the most demanding film sets of the early 1990s. That connection was forged during A Few Good Men.
As we reported, he was diagnosed with a form of schizophrenia called schizoaffective disorder. And in the month before the murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner, Nick's meds were off.
People forget this now, but Rob didn't come into directing from a distance. He came from acting, and that changed everything. Jack remembered it clearly. His eyes drifted past the recorder as if replaying the moments frame by frame. Rob didn't treat actors like pieces on a board. He understood the fear of a blank page, the pressure of delivering a line when the whole world is watching. Most directors observe from the outside. Rob stepped in with you. He felt the tension alongside you. He didn't just watch performances, he lived inside them. And nowhere was that clearer than during the scenes everyone still talks about decades later.
Like working with him, directing him in one of his most iconic performances in A Few Good Men.
Well, first of all, he's in the pantheon of the great actors, screen actors of all time. I mean,
period.
You know. And so he is a professional. First of all, he loves to act, and he's a professional. He comes to work prepared. I remember when we first started rehearsals, we have what they call a table read. Everybody sits around the table and we read the script, and Jack comes with a full performance. What I saw at the table is essentially what I wind up seeing on screen, and it sends a message to every other actor. We had Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon and Demi Moore. I mean, all these really young, great actors, and when they see Jack coming to play, it sends a message to them. We bet beyond.
The dialogue was fast, sharp, unforgiving. There was no room to hide. Takes repeated. Energy shifted. One actor pacing with intensity, another standing still, letting the moment build. And Rob let it happen. He didn't rush the silence. He didn't interrupt the pause. He understood that sometimes restraint carries more power than motion. Between takes, he didn't overwhelm with notes. He stepped in close, looked Jack in the eye and said something simple, not about lines, about belief. That the character truly believed he was right. Jack made it clear. That wasn't direction. That was trust, and that trust ran deeper than most people ever realized. There was one moment Jack shared that never made it into interviews. After an especially heavy take, the crew paused. Rob walked over, not to the monitors, not to the producers, but to where Jack stood alone, catching his breath. No cameras, no audience, just silence. Rob didn't need to say anything. That quiet understanding said enough. That's the kind of connection people on the outside never saw, built on shared pressure, on knowing that one wrong move could make everything collapse. And that's why this story hurts now, because when you've stood that close to someone, you replay every moment later and wonder what you missed or what you chose not to see. Jack said Rob once shared something his father told him. The funniest people often carry the deepest weight inside, and the most dangerous certainty is believing you're always right. That wasn't just about a character. It was about life, about power, about how unchecked belief can turn into something frightening. From that moment on, Jack understood. Rob wasn't chasing applause. He was searching for truth. And that's why their bond lasted. Their friendship didn't look flashy. No loud lunches, no red carpets, just quiet dinners, long phone calls, conversations about basketball, getting older, and eventually, family. That's where Rob's heart lived. Jack remembered how Rob lit up talking about Jake and Roy. The pride was real. The joy was easy. But when Nick came up, everything shifted. Not less love, more. Heavier. Protective. The kind of love that keeps you awake at night. Jack paused there, choosing his words carefully. He'd seen this pattern before. Hollywood had a way of changing reality. Access. Comfort. Too many yeses. And when that happens, lines don't just blur. They disappear. Rob wasn't blind to what was happening. Jack makes that clear. Rob and Michelle worked hard to keep their family grounded. Real dinners. Real vacations. Showing up. Being present. They tried to build something steady inside a world that was anything but. By every visible measure, they did what loving parents are supposed to do. They cared. They stayed involved. They paid attention. But Jack says something that lands hard when he reflects on it now. No matter how careful you are, influence still finds a way in. Hollywood can be beautiful, but it can also quietly erode boundaries if you're not constantly on guard. Even strong families feel that pressure. Even devoted parents face moments they can't fully control. That's the part Jack can't escape. The love Rob had for his kids, and the quiet fear that lived underneath it. Darkness like that doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't kick the door in. It slips through the cracks. Jack says the day everything surfaced, he was home alone. The house was still, almost too still, when the phone rang. Sharp, persistent, cutting through the quiet like something urgent you can't ignore. It wasn't an agent. It wasn't a publicist. It was a mutual friend. Their voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. It was broken. Barely holding together. Jack says that's what stays with him most. At first, you don't even hear the words. Your mind rejects them because they don't make sense. The message came through in fragments. Rob, Michelle, the house, Nick. The words refused to form a sentence his mind could accept. He describes it not as grief at first, but like stepping into a sudden blank space, as if the room emptied instantly, like all the air had been pulled out. After the call ended, Jack walked out onto his deck and looked across Los Angeles. And that's when it really hit. The city hadn't stopped. Cars kept moving. A helicopter passed overhead. The sun kept shining. Nothing had paused. And that felt cruel. Life doesn't slow down for loss. It doesn't even hesitate. Jack didn't turn on the television. He didn't check his phone. He already knew what would be there. Speculation, old photos, voices filling in gaps they had no right touching. He wanted no part of it. Instead, he stayed inside the quiet of his home, now filled with memories. Laughter echoing where it used to live. His thoughts kept circling back to Michelle. Jack's voice tightens when he talks about her. She was the steady one, the balance. Rob was the energy, the presence, the pulse of that family. But Michelle was the calm that held it together. Grace paired with strength, the kind of person who keeps everything upright without ever asking to be seen. Thinking about what they both carried in those final moments is a place Jack doesn't linger long. He says some thoughts pull you under if you stare too long. They don't offer answers. They just stay. In the days that followed, as details surfaced and others spoke publicly, Jack stayed out of sight. He wasn't processing this as a public figure. He was processing it as someone who had lost a friend. And worse, he was wrestling with a memory he had dismissed years earlier. This is the part his voice slows down, the part he admits he kept buried. There was a moment long ago when something felt off. A warning sign he noticed, and then shrugged away. Life was busy. Nothing had happened yet. That's what plays in his mind now. Not the headlines, not the noise. Just that one moment where he wonders if speaking up might have changed something. That regret is why he finally chose to speak. Jack says it was Rob's birthday party at the Brentwood house, one of those rare nights where everything looked perfect. Warm air, friends from every chapter of Rob's life, laughter floating through the yard. Carl was there too, sharp as ever, holding court the way only he could. Jack remembers standing in the garden when Nick arrived. The second he saw his face, something shifted. He says it was a look he'd seen before, on sets, in bars. Even once in his own reflection years back, restless, tense. Like something inside was searching for friction. Nothing obvious, nothing you could point to. And that's what made it unsettling. Later that night, Jack stepped inside for a drink. Most of the party stayed outside, but as he moved down the hallway, he heard voices from a side room. Not loud, sharp, the kind of tone that stops you without thinking. He recognized them. Nick and Rob. Nick stood over him, not touching him, not threatening in a visible way, but pressing his presence alone. Rob was seated, smaller than Jack had ever seen him. Nick was talking about money, about his life, about what he felt had gone wrong. The words themselves weren't new, but the energy behind them was. Cold, detached, stripped of warmth. Then Michelle stepped in, calm, controlled, grounded. She placed a gentle hand on Nick's arm. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lecture. She simply said his name softly. And Nick brushed her off. Not loudly, not aggressively, dismissively. Jack says that moment hit harder than anything else. Nick looked at his parents and there was nothing there. No connection, no recognition, just distance. Rob looked up and saw Jack standing in the doorway. Their eyes met for a second. Jack says he saw everything in that glance. Shame, exhaustion, fear, and above all, a father's unbreakable love. Rob shook his head slightly. It said everything. Let it go. This is our family. And Jack listened. He turned around, went back outside and acted like he hadn't seen anything. That decision haunts him. He takes a long breath here. The sunglasses come off. His eyes are glassy, red, filled with something raw. He says he told himself he was respecting Rob's privacy, respecting his hope, but now he knows that wasn't enough. What he should have done was speak, but who feels entitled to tell another man how to handle his own family? Who tells a father to stop believing in his child? Jack steadies himself, puts the glasses back on. He says it doesn't surprise him that others later admitted seeing similar signs. He's certain many people noticed over the years. They saw the warnings. They sensed something wasn't right, but they chose to believe it would pass. They saw the smoke and convinced themselves there was no fire. And that, Jack says quietly, is the part that hurts the most. Because it didn't come from neglect. It came from love. Nick Reiner is currently being held in a county facility, facing multiple serious charges with legal proceedings set to move forward later this month in January. When the word justice comes up, Jack lets out a quiet scoff. He says the word feels hollow when you really sit with it. What does justice even mean here? Locking someone away forever doesn't bring Rob or Michelle back. It doesn't rewind time. It doesn't undo what happened. To Jack, it feels like numbers on paper trying to balance something that can't be balanced. What surprises most people is the sorrow in his voice when he talks about the children who survived, Jake and Roy Reiner. He speaks about them with deep respect, almost like a proud uncle watching from a distance. He read their public statement carefully, noticing how they chose love, memory, and restraint instead of blame. Jack says that response says everything about Rob and Michelle. Even in the middle of something unthinkable, their children chose grace. They didn't tear anyone down. They didn't speak with anger. They protected their parents' memory, even when it would have been easier to lash out. That kind of strength doesn't come from nowhere. Jack calls it a reflection of the home they were raised in, trying to keep one devastating act from erasing a lifetime of love. That isn't just difficult, it's almost impossible. And yet they're trying. Jack pauses, staring out at the hazy Los Angeles skyline. He wonders if that's the only kind of justice that ever truly exists, that the good someone puts into the world doesn't disappear just because darkness shows up. It lives on in the people who didn't break. It lives on in the children who carry forward the values they were taught. It lives on in the films that will still make people laugh, cry, and feel something long after everyone in this room is gone. It also lives on in the memories held by friends who knew the man beyond the camera and the spotlight. The room goes quiet again. The recorder keeps running, picking up only the low hum of the house and distant traffic outside. Jack doesn't seem to notice anymore. He isn't performing. He's just remembering. He finally breaks the silence and says the last time he spoke to Rob was about a month before everything happened. It was a normal phone call, nothing heavy. They talked about the Lakers, joked about a new movie coming out. Then Rob got quiet for a moment before hanging up and said something Jack still carries with him. For all the chaos and craziness, they did all right. They got to make movies. They got to tell stories. They got to live full lives. Jack told him he was right. It was a good life. The call ended. Jack stands and walks toward the large window, turning his back to the room. He stands there for a long time, looking out over the city he helped shape, a city that also took more than it ever gave back. He says Rob always looked for the good in people, even when it hurt him, even when it cost him. That, more than anything else, is what stays with him. Jack's voice drifts back across the room, quieter now, but steady. Rob spent his life telling stories about underdogs, loyalty, friendship, and real love. He believed in happy endings. He believed people were decent at their core. That belief was his greatest strength as an artist, and the thing that hurt him most as a father. He spent decades directing heroes and shaping villains on screen, never realizing the real danger wasn't somewhere out in the world. It was closer than anyone wanted to admit. And that truth, Jack says, is something no parent is prepared to face. Not fame, not success, not experience. Nothing prepares you for that kind of reckoning. With that, the moment ends. No dramatic farewell, just a quiet nod. The kind that says everything that needed to be said has already been said. As the door closes, the image lingers. Jack Nicholson standing alone above the city, not haunted by the roles he played or the fame he earned, but by the memory of a friend he couldn't protect. The silence returns to Mulholland Drive, but it's different now. It isn't empty. It's heavy, filled with everything that went unspoken for too long, and a story that finally found its voice. Stories like this remind us that behind success and celebrity are real people, real families, and real consequences. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so these conversations continue to reach more people. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. I'll see you there.